Okay, everything is coming up red this Saturday in Lincoln, Nebraska as the Rutgers Scarlet Knights head into Lincoln to play the 4-1 Nebraska Cornhuskers. Both fan bases, both teams, and both coaches looking at this as a barometer game for the trajectory of the rest of the season for both teams going forward. These are some things that Rutgers is going to have to do to be successful against a pretty talented Nebraska team. Let's get to it.
What is it tonight?
So Rutgers heads into Nebraska as a 7-point underdog against the Cornhuskers. We talked about, how Nebraska's defense is kind of a really good defense. They're number 12 in yards per game. They have 15 sacks. They're 9th in points per game at 12.2 against the schedule. Texas, El Paso, Colorado, which is all offense, no defense. Northern Iowa, Illinois, which turned out to be a tough game, and Purdue, which was a tough game for 2.5 to 3 quarters before they pulled away 28-10. Nonetheless, this is going to be a really good matchup. Nebraska's really good run defense against Rutgers, really good run offense, which... who will break first? Not really sure about that, but here's some things that we need to do. And this Rutgers team is a more balanced team than Nebraska has seen from us in the past. I think I was watching one podcast that feels that the Rutgers 2022 team is better than this current team, mostly on the strength of a better and more aggressive defense, and I wouldn't argue too much with that. We expected going into the season that a defense of a lot of returning guys, upperclassmen, would kind of be the tone setter for Rutgers this year. It hasn't worked out that way because of injuries and got a freshman in the secondary and a safety position, but nonetheless, here's what we're going to have to do, and here's 4 or 5 things. Ethan is going to have to make a play. We saw how I don't think this is a game where we're going to be able to run it down Nebraska's throat, and we can allow that to determine the tone setting for the offense. He's going to have to make a play, and not unlike he did against Virginia Tech. After Virginia came back, to tie the game, and we hit that tight end screen to Kenny Fletcher for a big game that set us up for the winning field goal. Ethan has to be able to make a play. Now, Nebraska has 15 sacks. It's a lot of sacks. That being said, the defensive line sometimes is, a little bit shaky. If there's a model to be looked at, it's how Luke Altmaier was 21 for 27, 4 touchdowns against Nebraska. He's not Dylan Raiola. Ethan and Luke Altmaier, as I've said, are really similar game managers, smart, know where they want to go with the ball, good ball placement, accurate, mobile enough to be able to escape the rush and get some yards with their legs. I don't expect Ethan to get 4 touchdowns passing, but he's going to have to make a play, whether it's in the red zone on a big 3rd down and a big 4th down, which kind of leads to point number 2. Rutgers, very good on 3rd down. Nebraska, not very good on 3rd down. They have trouble getting off the field, so if we're going to have success, we're going to need to be able to convert on 3rd down. One of the things that concerns me is if we, run 3 RPOs up the middle to Kyle, and it's 3rd or 4th and 1, or 3rd and 4th and 2. I'm a little concerned about the predictability of the offense with plays that take a long time to develop. Nonetheless, if we can have some success, however we define that, we tried tried to get cute with a quick pass out to the flat against Virginia Tech to put the game away on 4th and 1 inside the 5-yard line. Didn't really work out. But there were opportunities on 3rd and 4th down to make plays against Nebraska. Nebraska not very good on 3rd and 4th downs. So let's make some plays, whether it be in the passing game or running game. Ethan using his legs might be an opportunity there. He's going to have to be really accurate. He's been pretty good so far. The stats, when it was even like 63% for 63.5%, doesn't really accurately capture how good he's been. There's been several drops. But Nebraska struggles getting off the field. Let's convert those 3rd downs, and if we have a 4th down situation that's critical late in the game, let's do that. We're going to have to do what we like to do, but it's going to be really hard against this Nebraska rush defense. They give up 2.8 yards per carry. Force feeding it, slow developing RPOs up the middle. We'll have some opportunities. You know, we talked about how Kyle, a little bit like Ray Rice, yard here, 2 yards, 3 yards there, and then bang. Gets a big chunk yard, a big chunk play for like 40 yards. Running game is going to have to succeed, and we can't have a game with Kyle like we did against Virginia Tech, where they bottled him up for 24 carries for like 76 yards. We're going to have to do better than 2.8 yards per carry, because if we don't, then this is going to be a slog for us. But more importantly, which leads to another point, we need to control the pace of the game through the running game, but balanced with Ethan being able to make some plays. Now, people look at the box score against Washington and say, how did we win? But we did a good job of kind of controlling the game. Washington, being behind for most of the game, made plays in the passing game, had some chunk yards in the running game, due to poor tackling, and linebackers just not in the gaps and missing their assignments. Nonetheless, we need to take advantage of controlling the pace of the game. Will Dylan Raiola get his yards and completions? Yes. Might Nebraska have a little bit success with their running back by committee, depending on who has the hot hand? Possibly. But if we can do what we do, we take advantage of situational football and circumstances, we don't have to have 450 yards and 30 points to win a game. We can win a game with 350 yards, 130, 140 yards rushing, Ethan completing enough passes without turning the ball over to be able to control a team that, quite frankly, has a lot of talent, especially with the quarterback position and wide receiver position. Coach talked about wide receiver group might be physically the largest that we face this year. So let's control the pace of the game. A lot of that will have to do with the running game. And if you watched Luke Altmaier, he had success underneath and in slants, with slants. So let's control the pace of the game that way. So if we hold on to the ball for a long time, and I don't expect to be able to hold on to the ball like we did against Virginia Tech, nonetheless, control the pace of the game. And, Nebraska will get some yards, but if we can bend but not break, as we've done so far, we stand a chance of having success. The O-line's been pretty good. We've given up, I think, 4 sacks. And we're going to have to do a good job against that Nebraska defensive front, who's had a bunch of sacks this year. So this is not the game for Ethan to have a turnover, strip sack, sack and fumble. Offensive line is going to have to do what they do. Now, Nebraska's defensive line doesn't worry me a whole lot. I feel that we're going to have opportunities in the running game and in the passing game to move the sticks and execute what we need to do, whether between the tackles with Sam or getting Kyle out to the edge. Nebraska on defense tends to be a little softer on the outside, so if we can get some plays in there as well as getting Kenny Fletcher the ball, those tight end screens or tight end drag routes across the field and underneath and out to the edge, I think we can have some success there. But the O-line is going to have to provide some time. So if they continue to do what they've been doing so far this year, we stand a really good chance to have success against Nebraska. And last thing, is injuries. Greg Schiano has a little bit of Bill Belichick in him. He doesn't like to give too much information away, especially when it comes to injuries. And the guys at NJ.com trying to get something out of him this week with Robert Longerbeam and Eric Rogers. But we don't know what their status is. So if either one of those guys or both of those guys are out, this could be a kind of a rough game. Kosh Sanders, freshman safety, great talent. He's been, as freshmen are, a little bit up and down. He can make some plays, but at the same time, he's been picked on a little bit. If Rogers and or Longerbeam is not in the game protecting that back end, I think this could be a little bit of a tough road to hoe, a little bit of a tough slog for us. All that being said, I feel that Nebraska, to me, is just not as explosive as Washington. Yes, Dylan Raiola is the more physically gifted quarterback, but Will Rogers, we've talked about this, that timing of those air raid type offenses, just a super accurate passer. He's not going to be irresponsible with the ball all that much. Dylan Raiola tends to miss a little bit high. This is a game that the defense was kind of looking to get better and do what it is they know they can do as far as a rush, which we all know has been a challenge for us this year. Aaron Lewis is grading out pretty well on PFF apparently, but I'm not sure about the rest of the group. But if this is a game, and it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, although I think Nebraska's line is okay, I think we can have success at times against Nebraska's offensive line, which Nebraska Piles have been saying, it's a little bit inconsistent. So now would be a good time to get some pressure. I don't really count on it. I don't think we're going to have 3 or 4 sacks or even 2 sacks, but as usual, tip some balls, make Raiola a little bit uncomfortable. He lets his athleticism try to get him out of a pickle, or if he's getting rushed. I think Illinois had like 5 sacks against him. I don't think we're going to have that kind of success. But we're kind of similar to Illinois in personality and what is we want to do. Illinois is executing very well this year. But nonetheless, you can't let Dylan Raiola have a field day, and we're going to have to tackle, because if those big receivers break some tackles, this game is over for us. So their wide receivers are very good. They're big. They're physical. We also cannot let the running game, which is just okay, their running back running game averages about 4 yards per carry, which is, more than a yard less than we do. But we saw what kind of success Coleman for Washington had against us. So we can't allow a so-so running game to get chunks against us. I have a feeling that there will be aspects of the defensive play that will be better for us in Lincoln on Saturday. But the big things is Ethan's going to have to make a play. We're going to need to do what we do and run the ball effectively against a really good defense. That's going to be a matchup to watch. Control the pace of the game, not necessarily on the time of possession, although that would be really nice if we fall behind. But we've been ahead most of this year. I think we've been behind 3-0 a couple times. But if Nebraska, makes some plays, and we haven't seen Rutgers have to respond to being down 10 points, 13 points, 2 touchdowns. Control the pace of the game, not necessarily time of possession, although that would be really helpful. If we control time of possession and pace of the game, I think Nebraska loses. And so if we can convert on those 3rd and 4th downs and keep the Nebraska defense on the field, we'll have some success. The O-line will have to do well and not allow a bunch of sacks against Ethan. And, we talked about how Ethan is going to have to make a play. This might be one of those times to make a play. Sometimes when he's under pressure, wide receivers are open in space underneath, and he just can't get the ball to them. This may have to be a game where he gets the ball to them as he's got defenders wrapped around his legs. And let's hope that we're healthy. So there we have it, some keys to the win for Rutgers. The line's around 7 points. This is going to be a tough game. 24-23 kind of game either way. Something that's gnawing at me all year that says Nebraska might pull this out. But if we do those things that we talked about, we can win this 24, 23, 27, 23. Conventional wisdom is that this was going to be a rock fight. And some people saw that with the Washington game. And it kind of was on the scoreboard, but not on the field as far as moving the ball. This game kind of will be similar. So let's hope it turns out that way. Everybody enjoy the week, enjoy the game, and we will see you the next time we got to talk basketball at some point in our recruiting class for 2026. And have a great week, rest of the everybody, and we will see you the next time.